A subscriber's story. This girl in my subscriber's class thought she left the Zoom call, but in fact, the camera was still on, and, well, let's just say that she started doing things with her boyfriend that, well, she wouldn't have wanted to do if she knew the camera was on. I'm not going to spoil it, though. You'll have to wait and see. You'll have to watch the story. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. So this story happens during Zoom class, or my subscriber's Zoom class, right? So there's this girl in my subscriber's grade, and let's call this girl Jenny. I'd never actually say their real names, but thankfully I'm never really given their real names, so maybe she actually is Jenny, and there's a very small chance that she is, and I just exposed her. Anyways, though, let's call her Jenny for fun, right? So Jenny had a boyfriend, and her boyfriend's name was Brad, and Brad went to a different school, right? And, when they were on Zoom class, it really didn't matter what school you went to. You were on Zoom anyways. Like, oh, no, you weren't able to see them, like, in your Zoom class. Like, who cares? Like, you'd see them in person if you were to see them, right? So this story happened actually recently. Like, it happened at the end of last year. So the subscriber was still on Zoom at the end of last year, but at this point, he was tired and kind of sick and done with it, man. Like, he was just ready to, he was done with Zoom. And other people were also pretty done with Zoom, as I think almost everyone is. Dude, Zoom is the worst. Little tangent. Like, I can never focus. I don't think anyone else can. But also, right, for the story, I mean, most people aren't usually going to have, like, little slip-ups. Like, no one's going to have a slip-up on Zoom, like, forgetting to mute your mic or forgetting to turn off your camera just because you don't know how to do it. Like, in the very beginning, there were a few kind of, like, slip-ups for me. Like, not for me specific personally, but, like, I've witnessed a few, like, little minor slip-ups, right, just because people didn't understand the technology. But at this point, like, people were just kind of so done with Zoom that the fact, like, if people were going to make a mess up, like forget to turn off their mic or forget to turn off their camera, it'd be because they're just tired and sick of it, right? So Jenny, right, one day, it's just like a regular standard class. Nothing that special is happening. So Jenny tells the teacher at the very beginning of class, she like unmutes and she's like, hey, Mr. Whatever, I don't know, subscribe with notifications on. That's his name, guys, 100% truth. I have a doctor's appointment. I'm going to have to leave like class half an hour early. Teacher's like, yeah, sure, that's cool. I think during a normal day or a normal school year, if they were in person, she would have had to like come with a doctor's note, or like the nurse would have to like write her up and say, yeah, no, this is legit. But the teacher just was like, he had a lesson plan, and this was very last minute, and he's not going to like keep her, right? It's over Zoom. Like, he really doesn't care. He just kind of lets it slide and just assumes that she actually does have a doctor's plan, which, as you guys will soon see, she doesn't, and it probably would have been for the better, dude, if she did. Like, it honestly would have been for the better for her if she actually had a doctor's appointment, and maybe some things that happened wouldn't have ended up happening. That's all I'm going to say. So during class, like, everyone seems pretty distracted, but, like, Jenny seems extra distracted, or at least that's what the subscriber says. She seems to be very obviously on her phone a lot more. She also seems to be reacting really well to, like, the messages. Like, she's smiling. She's like, you know, when you're texting someone and you really like texting them for certain reasons, right? You really like texting them, and, you know, maybe when you receive a message from them, it makes you feel all like warm and fuzzy inside. You get the butterflies and you get all those feelings, right? That was basically like, it was very obvious that that's like what she was feeling. Like, she was just really just letting herself, like, all the emotions out. She was just like smiling and everything. So, like, the subscriber had, like, a guess that there was some, like, guy or something. And he was like, he didn't even think about it for a second that she wasn't actually about to go to a doctor's appointment when she said she was going to go to a doctor's appointment. It didn't even cross his mind. Real quick, if you like story videos and enjoying this video, consider subscribing to the channel. That's it. Let's go back to the story. Anyways, so, like, the certain amount of time into class comes, and Jenny, like, sends, like, it's obvious that she's, like, sending a text to the professor, and the subscriber assumed that, like, what she sent a text was basically, like, hey, like, I have to go, like, it's my doctor's appointment, because she didn't want to, like, disturb the class, because the professor was, like, reading off of something, so he probably wouldn't have even seen the message until he checked the messages. But the idea was just, Jenny, sorry, I almost called her Jessie, that Jenny was just gonna, like, disappear, right, and that the professor's like, oh, where'd she go? He just checked the messages and be like, oh, yeah, she asked for a doctor's appointment, that's totally cool, and things would have been normal like that. Oh, Jenny, you should have just gone to a doctor's appointment. Even if you didn't have one, you should have just gone to one. Like, just shown up to some random dude's doctor's appointment, because that would have been better than what actually happened. My subscriber is kind of looking at the window because he, like, at the not the window, at like the box that, you know, Jenny is in, because he's kind of bored, and he's like, oh, she's typing something to the professor. Oh, she just hit send, kind of like trying to like figure out what she was doing, like just from like little motions, because he was bored and it was like a game. And then he's like, oh, and now she's quitting out of Zoom and she'll be gone in a second. And he kind of just waits there, and he notices that Jenny's not gone, dude. Jenny's still there. Jenny's still in the bottom corner of like the Zoom window, like the square thing. And he's just like, oh, is she like having trouble logging out? And then he notices that like she stands up and like is like reacting to a sound, like her head turns around and she walks out of her room. And that's when he's starting to realize that Jenny didn't forget to leave the Zoom call, or Jenny did not intend to leave the Zoom call. She did not intend to be there. She intended to leave the Zoom call, but somehow mess it up so that she thought that she left, but she didn't actually leave. This was actually a fear of mine for a while. Like, I would like force quit Zoom. I would like remove it from doc just because I was terrified that I would like fake leave a call for some reason. And that never happened to me. But now, like, when I have to do any kind of Zoom meeting again, I'm terrified of this, because after I got this story, I have a new phobia, whatever this is. Right, so the subscriber is kind of like frantically looking around at the other people, and no one else seems to be disturbed. They seem to be kind of like reading a website, because they were supposed to be reading along with the professor. Like, they were not supposed to be zoning out watching Jenny's screen, right? Like, obviously they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, but the subscriber, like, was looking around, like, is anyone else noticing what I'm noticing? Like, Jenny's webcam is still on screen, but she's out of the picture, right? And then what happens next is he's watching the webcam. He's like, okay, she's gonna come back at some point. Like, I don't have her on Snap and I don't have her text. Maybe I can send her something on Zoom. No, I can't send her something on Zoom because she doesn't know it's open. Do I tell the professor to close the window? Like, he's obviously not paying attention either. He's looking at something else. What should I, and as he's thinking, like, what should I do? Jenny comes back into the room, but she's not the only one coming back into the room. Do you remember the boyfriend that I mentioned earlier in the very beginning? His name's Brad. Well, Jenny, if you don't remember, Jenny's a boyfriend and his name is Brad. So both Jenny and Brad walk back into Jenny's room. And at this point, the subscriber is like, hey, yo, like this is escalating super fast. So first of all, he now knows that Jenny she forgot to turn off her webcam, very obviously. She forgot that she was still in the Zoom call. Somehow she doesn't know, and he has no way of contacting her, and the professor doesn't know, and everyone else seems to not really be paying attention. And the other thing is, Jenny straight up lied about having a doctor's appointment. Unless her boyfriend was coming to pick her up, which there was still like a chance, but he just was like, okay, that's most likely not the case, right? That is most likely not what's about to happen here, right? And the thing was, right, the way that Jenny's room was set up was, it was like she had a desk, and like the very far was the desk, right, where she sat. And the desk, like behind, like what you could see behind her was both her bed and the door out of her room. So the subscriber saw Jenny and the boyfriend walking out of the door, but instead of sitting down at the desk, they sat down on the bed, and the dude's like, hey, yeah. So at this point, the subscriber is panicking a little bit, because there's a lot of places this could escalate. Maybe they could have a debate of their interpretation of current geopolitical tensions in Europe, or maybe they'll do common things that couples may or may not do when they're alone in a room and they think that no one's watching. You know, I'm really hoping, I'm rooting for option A, but let's just be realistic here, guys. It's probably not option A. And here's the thing. I don't think that the professor and the class, when they're done reading and return kind of looking at the Zoom again, want to see option B on the screen, if you know what I mean. Right, so the subscriber's like, okay, I gotta do something. And then he looks at Jenny's screen, and they're like talking to each other. So he's like, okay, hopefully, right, They're chill about this. They're taking their time. Like, I really hope I got some time. Like, I hope I got some time on his hand. Please tell me he has some, like, stupid thing he cares way too much about that he's gonna, like, talk to her about for, like, 15 minutes to buy me some time. Let's hope that they're, like, actually have a good relationship and have a lot of things they want to talk to each other about. Please, it's all I ask for. Like, come on. He's like, okay, options. What are my options? I don't have Jenny on text. I have one of my friends on text, but what is he going to do? And he's like, okay, I got an idea. I'll message the professor. The professor can remove her from the call because the professor is like the one who set up the meeting. So he sent a Zoom message because he doesn't have, obviously, his professor's text message. That'd be a little interesting, right? He sends a Zoom message to the professor saying, hey, I think Jenny meant to leave the call, but she's still in it. Can you just remove her before like she does anything that would be bad? He was very vague about it, of course. But the problem was, and the subscriber started to realize, was that as long as the professor was focused on the website that they were all quote unquote reading together, besides the subscriber, of course, and Jenny, she was doing other things, like he was not going to check his Zoom messages because he made the assumption, he realized that like the professor probably didn't have Zoom message notifications on. And that he was only going to see it when he like re-entered like the Zoom app, and he would have known what was going on by that time, and it would have been too late. So at this point, the subscriber comes to the realization that there is nothing he can do, or at least he thinks. And so he looks back at Jenny's webcam. He's like, oh my God, please tell me nothing's happening. And the problem is, like, he notices, because the audio is muted for some reason. Like, I think Jenny successfully muted the audio, but didn't leave. So he saw that they weren't talking anymore. Well, it was kind of an extra bad thing, because that means that, like, the professor wouldn't hear, like, background talk and, like, rejoin the Zoom. He would have just, they were muted, so he wouldn't have heard anything to, like, as a warning. But they stopped talking. But they were, like, looking at each other, right? So the subscriber's like, oh my God. I'm about, and he's like having a realization of like what the situation he's in right now. He has an idea. It's a bit of a Hail Mary, but honestly, at this point, anything works. He sends an email to the professor, not through like the Zoom messenger, but like an email saying, look in the Zoom right now. And he just like sent that. And then the greatest thing happened. The professor had push notifications on for his email. It wasn't like a Google inbox or anything that's like part of the browser. It was a separate app or like application that was downloaded onto his computer. He got a notification, and that was all in the tagline. So the professor was very confused. So he rejoined the Zoom call. And as he joined the Zoom call, Jenny and her boyfriend were seconds away from getting it on, if you know what I mean. The professor was actually really quick on his feet and immediately realized what was going on. And dude, I was told, the subscriber told me that this was like, that they were seconds away from not so peachy clean, family friendly, you know, and the professor got in there just in time and removed her from the call. Just in time. Like, hairs away. At this point, everyone else in the class who had returned to the Zoom call as well was just like, oh my God, what did we just stumble into? And the professor's like, don't worry about it. You guys saw nothing. Like, oh, Jenny's like webcam was like bugging out, so I just removed her from the call. Don't worry about it. So now let's all turn to page, and then they just went on with it. And the subscriber was just like, I was seconds away from probably one of the most memorable and the worst way possible events of my life. Or not my life, but like this school year, and especially this Zoom class. Like, I was almost in a moment of history for this school and for this grade.